You're entering the Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog. This is the Week 15 DFS picks. We're going game by game. We're building lineups, looking at the optimal, and chatting with our good friends after a 2-week absence. Toe Tag and Tambo from ShipItNation.com. John Breslin, Squirrel Patrol from 4for4.com. Any of you guys win the Millie Maker in the last 2 weeks when we were off?
Nope.
You would have seen that on Twitter.
Yeah. Okay. So it
You would
wasn't.
see me without a mustache as well.
Yeah. Is that mustache ever going away, or is this like a permanent fixture now?
I think I'll pack it up after the season, but I'm still confident that I'm going to win the Millie Maker before the season's up and get to have the ultimate bit. So I'm leaving it until that happens. Maybe during the off season, we'll see. People won't see me as much.
Well, I'll see you. I'll see you tonight, won't I?
I will see you tonight. Yes. Are we getting any sponsored goods on the way in, like the pre-hangover drink that you always promote, or are we getting anything?
Listen, Z-Biotics might have sponsored the Mayo Media Christmas party. That there might be just, it always looks odd when people walk in and there's a bowl full of pills when they walk in, but you probably do want to take one.
Those are the best parties.
John, you still got time to fly up.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'll check the flight schedule. It's a quick flight.
It's very windy here, so there may be some delays. We'll see. But hey, it's not going to be like an avalanche snowstorm like we had last year, so people are actually going to show up. It's going to be a fun time. But people were asking me, even when I was down in Kansas City last week with Underdog for the Dog Bowl, like, is the DraftKings show over? It's like, no, we're just, I'm away. What do you want me to do? I'm here.
We're back. I told you it's a long hiatus though with the season the way it is, Pat. It's 2 weeks is a long time in NFL years, like dog years. It's the same for NFL years. 2 weeks is a long time.
Well, John, I got to tell you, my DK balance did not go down over the last 2 weeks, which is big success for me.
Yeah, that's always a win.
So let's jump into it. What are you guys looking at as sort of like the big themes of this week and how you're going to build? I think, like, as it pertains to the optimizer, and we'll get to the optimal lineup in a second, is sort of a hinge on whether or not T. Higgins plays, because if he doesn't, you can use Yoshivas or Tinsley potentially, and it really opens up a ton in your lineup, John.
Yeah, I think this is one of the best slates of the year, maybe the best slate of the year. Maybe like opening Sunday, maybe it's the tops, right? But we have no more bye weeks. We have some like very high total games, some like games that are going to be impactful for the standings. We're like kind of getting to, the time of year where teams are like making a push for the playoffs. And we have two teams making a push for the playoffs that are meeting each other. That can be like, that's a great NFL game. You have these games of like teams that are not making a push for the playoffs, meeting a team that is potentially just going to crush them. So there's a huge spread. And then, you've got these like super high total games. So there's a lot to like look at and a lot of really good individual matchups as well. So it's a slate where I'm like constantly having to make decisions about like, do I want the player with the individual matchup, or do I want like a stack of this high total game?
The other big injury news that we can look at, CeeDee Lamb is going to play for the Cowboys. That's great news. Maybe worse news is the Josh Jacobs knee injury once again popping up, Tambo. He has not practiced all week. I'm guessing he's probably going to go, but if he doesn't, Manny Wilson, $4,400. Problem is he's playing Denver.
Yeah, that's going to be a key factor. I would use that to echo some of what John had just said, but also just in general of, people tuning into this stuff, using the tools and data, going through and watching as we come, get to the roster construction and stuff. There's really good real life football games, but those don't always translate to really good DFS games. Or obviously, like you just talked about, Pat, when there's injuries and things like this that pop up that make for your ability to build a certain lineup for the slate, that's a lot different on a 13-game slate than what game we might actually enjoy the most outside of the ones I enjoy the most, which are winning me money. But in general, there's going to be some really good games, but doesn't necessarily always mean good for DFS.
No, and John, there are the two injuries that we talked about, whether if let's say Jacobs doesn't play and you have Emmanuel Wilson, Bam Knight seems to be the other one because DeMercado may or may not play. Obviously, Trey Benson now finished for the season, not activated off injured reserve. That Bam Knight's in that $4,000 range. You have him going against Houston. You have Wilson potentially going against Denver. That it feels like there are good, cheap running back plays, but maybe not the ones that you want in the right matchups.
Yeah, so that I think that makes it intriguing because you have to make decisions. I do think that if Emmanuel Wilson is playing at 4,400, it doesn't matter that it's against Denver. That's a great price tag. There's certainly, I think he'd be one of the more popular players on the slate, but I think, Jacobs is maybe 50-50. So we have to see how that plays out. Probably not as interested in Bam Knight. Like, I don't I don't know that he's in a dramatically different situation than he has been in. And I haven't been like, I think he's a guy you can like stick in a lineup as a salary saver in a like 150 set. I don't know that he's necessarily a guy against Houston that I'm going to run to like jam into all my lineups.
The only other $4,000 running back I see right now, and it's technically a split situation, but the split has been moving back in his favor, Tambo, is Chuba Hubbard, who's $4,600. That could be a wild mispricing, or he could be wildly overpriced. I find that he's an intriguing player, and I know that he's a player like the type of player that you hate that I like. But do you have any interest in him this week?
Not at the moment, no, especially if we're going to obviously if we get the Wilson news, that's the thing we'll have to wait on. But if we get that, that's even better. But the main reason is, Pat, is just because going back to it for the 13 games, you can only play 3 running backs at most. And again, we're not always going to jam these in every lineup, but CMC and Jahmyr Gibbs are both on this slate at very affordable prices. There's 13 games in total. So just an absolute ton of running backs and everything across the board. But with those two starting things off amongst others, it's going to be really tricky to sort of plug all these guys in.
Well, let's go straight to the Optimal, because the Optimal agrees with you with CMC and Jahmyr Gibbs. If you go to 4for4.com/Mayo right now, get yourself a discount on all of the tools, all of the content, including all of John's work behind the paywall at 4for4.com. Jackson Dart is the quarterback. Theo Johnson is the tight end, so you have a stack already built in there. McCaffrey and Gibbs as the running backs. Chase, Jaden Reed, and Mitchell Tinsley. That assumes that there is no T. Higgins playing in that game. Kittle is the flex. Raiders defense, the cheapest D. I don't think I've ever seen an Optimal, John, jam in McCaffrey, Gibbs, and Chase into a lineup.
Yeah, but we're starting to see these guys separate, right? Like now we have almost a full season of data on some of these guys, and they've been so consistent and so outstanding all season that, yeah, we're like just jam in these guys and find the value pieces to make it fit.
So the other big question, as we see it reflected in the Optimal Tambo, is that there is a game that has a 55-point total, and only one of the players from that game is in this lineup.
Yes, love that call out. And I think that's pretty interesting from when we get to building the tournament lineups, because this is my kind of, it fits both molds of what I'm saying. Not talking about both sides, but just to say what I said earlier. Really good game might not mean a good DFS game. The reason it might not mean a good DFS game, and it very well could, but the reason it might not is because it gets too spread out. It's hard to figure it out. You have to run so many combinations. If someone has a single entry, they plug in 5 guys from that game and they're disappointed when only 2 of them hit the nuts and the other 3 are useless, and then their lineup's dead. But for us, I think we're definitely going to be jamming some of those lineups in and looking at building tournament stacks and things around it, because with a 55-point total, it could just absolutely separate from all these other games on the slate. And with the value on the slate, to your point there, all you're really doing is changing some of it around, keeping the value, but changing around some of the studs to make it fit that game instead of what you currently have.
The problem, John, with Detroit and the Rams is going to be the affordability of all these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. But there are ways to make it work. And that's one of the reasons I think that like Josh Jacobs could be key to the slate, or like you said, like T. Higgins could be key to the slate. Like, are we getting a 3,100 like Bengals wide receiver too? Because then that's a way to get like Puka and Amon-Ra St. Brown or Jahmyr Gibbs into the same lineup.
Well, let's try to finagle this Optimal to make it fit our needs of that Lions and Rams game. It probably means we have to drop Chase, right?
Yeah, well, I was going to just say that, like you said, there's actually no affordability issue. It's the issue of being scared to take out CMC and Jamar Chase. It's like, if I take those guys out, it's not going to project as good. It's not going to look as good, but you can get the money easily to get Amon-Ra or really whoever you want. You're just saying that Puka is now CMC or Adams is CMC. You're saying that, and you're moving it around that way. So I think we can get to it quite easily, but it just depends on how you want to shimmy it.
So there are a few games here, John. So you have the 55-point total with Lions and Rams. You have 47. Actually, that's the Sunday night game. Let's not talk about that one because that's not on this slate. Ravens and Bengals is 51.5. Bills and Patriots, 49.5. Those are the 3 big ones of the week. Is that the order that you would put them in? Lions, Bengals, and then Bills?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I do think that's the order I'd put them in. We saw, I think it was just last week, right? Now the weeks are starting to conflate together, but the Bengals and Cincinnati, or Bengals and Bills, right? Like was a standout point total before, going into the week. And then that game exploded late. Like looked like it might be a dud for a little bit, then exploded late. Like I think you maybe go right back to like the high standout total game and start with the Rams and Detroit.
Well, how did that game end up for DraftKings purposes? Because obviously Josh Allen scored the most of anyone and any of the quarterbacks. I think he just edged out Shadur in that sense, but no one really came along for the ride with him outside of like Dawson Knox, did they?
And that I think that's true, but I think it's also maybe more of a Josh Allen thing than Josh Allen is just a guy that can, the Bills spread the ball out a lot. Whereas I think the Rams and the Lions are becoming more concentrated. And that like Josh Allen can get there with like rushing and in a way that doesn't bring along necessarily his teammates or opposing players.
So where do you guys want to start? What quarterback side should we go on here? Or do you want to build out both sides of this?
I'm looking at it now. I'm just trying to see, like, I guess, leaving Gibbs in, the thing about Gibbs is he can still get there either
With
way.
Goff,
so gets an absolute ton of targets. I guess my point would be like Jameson Williams, 6,100. He's down the board quite a bit. Your Jamar Chase, he had him previously, kind of could become Puka Nacua. And then Jared Goff is only 6,100. I know, again, people don't necessarily like him as a quarterback, but obviously he would correlate with what these guys are doing. So just to give one starting point example, and then you can move other pieces around. I don't think this is that far off. If, obviously Tinsley, Kittle can be like your CMC in the lineup. If you want to leave Theo Johnson, you can, but realistically, something like this is probably how it has to start off. And then we would most likely hope to get some news on something like Wilson or someone along those lines where you can use a value running back. But for now, you got 6,300.
So I threw in Trevion Henderson at 6,100 to fill out that lineup, John. So it's Goff, Gibbs, Jameson Williams with a Puka bring back. Is there any amendments that you want to make to that starting core, and then we can figure out the rest of the lineup around it?
I'd really want to get him on Ross St. Brown in there.
Yeah.
All right.
For
So
playing, I'd actually sacrifice Gibbs. Like I'd say maybe that Gibbs is just getting, having a great game, but isn't paying off his like $8,800 price tag. If I'm playing Goff as the quarterback, I'd maybe be more inclined to play like a Stafford Gibbs than a Goff Gibbs.
what do you think, Tambo?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I definitely agree that I would want Amon-Ra in there first. It's just, it was a product of like what the pricing was and where we were setting up. So the other thing too is, again, depending on what you want to do with Puka, obviously coming off the big game, but if it does revert back, well, again, we'll wait and see on the news and stuff, but there's affordability with like Adams at 72. Amon-Ra is only 79, like he said there. So yeah, I think there's other ways to go about it. I just think if we're not going to be on CMC, I don't mind having somebody like Kittle. They have almost a 30-point team total at home against Tennessee. I think it's going to be a pretty good spot there for San Francisco. So I don't mind having them in there, but always, it could always spread out as well too there.
So if we have to save money, let's say we do this. Let's say we leave Gibbs in and we play Amon-Ra with him just to see if we can make this work and bring Puka as the bring back. I saved us $200 at tight end. I went from Theo Johnson to Mike Gesicki. Who would be the cheapest running back that you guys would feel comfortable playing at this point in time, not knowing the Jacobs news? Because I had Woody Marks as that guy for me at $5,600.
I'll say I think we could go to like David Montgomery at 5,000. Like Jahmyr Gibbs is going to look amazing until David Montgomery's breaking off a 20-yard touchdown run and handing the ball back over to the Rams.
So just swap Gibbs with Montgomery and figure it out then?
I got it here, Pat. It's good now. This is an overstack, but it's good, I think. This is one example at least, and it's about 8 points less than what we had up on the optimal. You keep Woody Marks in there. You change Gibbs to Montgomery. You change Gesicki to Kittle. Get Kittle back in the build. And then it leaves you Jameson Williams money. So if you're going with Goff, might as well overstack it. And you got 4 guys from Detroit with Puka. Obviously, you can move it around from there. I'm just saying that's the type of overstack. It's 8 points off your original optimal. And it's just a way to get a piece of that game. And yes, you don't have CMC. You don't have some of the, Jamar Chase, et cetera, but you are picking up the pieces in those same games with other stuff. And then you're getting to the 55-point game total and hoping that the points come this way.
The issue with this would be, you're playing the Raiders defense, which I guess against Philly isn't the end of the world, but that's just what we're left with. And you have Tinsley in here that, he might not be good anyway, but if T. Higgins gets declared active, he's simply not going to be on the field, and that leaves you very few outs with this lineup. That if it comes game time, it's like, oh no, what do I do? It's a blow up at that point.
Yeah, the overstack is a late game. So, you'll have the news beforehand on the Cincy stuff, and then you could change it all around as much as you wanted. But I guess that statement is, true for the same. If if we're not doing it that way, then or if we are doing it that way, we could almost build with Wilson and see what that looks like too, just out of curiosity in case it's a possibility. And then just say, if it's no good, it's no good. But clearly these lineups, if we had that Jacobs news, could be fixed in a heartbeat. It's just a matter of the news that we have at hand right now. So we're trying to work around that.
I would say, John, it's probably far more likely that Higgins misses than Jacobs misses at this point of the week.
Yeah, I think they're both pretty iffy, but I agree. I think Higgins is probably a long shot, whereas Jacobs is maybe more 50-50.
So the only thing that I did to this lineup, if you want to go overstack, or just to overstack it all, to take Tinsley out, how to make this work, is you move Jamison Williams up to wide receiver, and then you just flex Colby Parkinson. That's the same amount of money. It's not ideal, obviously, but at least it's a part of the same game.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Like $3,200 tight end that can catch a touchdown pass.
So how does this work now if we go to the Stafford side? Who do you put with Stafford? Does it have to be Puka, or would you do like a Devontae Adams, Parkinson, Tambo?
Well, actually, I thought it was interesting. I kind of had it last week, and it didn't fully work for me. I had a good week, not a great week, but the thing about Parkinson is I definitely like him to boost up the Stafford stack because it's like that's going to be the case. But I also feel like Parkinson is better suited, and it worked last week, is better suited with Puka because where Devontae Adams has been eating and getting his touchdowns is all at the goal line. So it's like a 2-in-1 combo. If you get Parkinson in there, he could take the goal line touchdown from Adams. That would hurt him. And then obviously Puka can get there without last week's result. He had 2 touchdowns last week and they just kept pouring it on. That you don't always need that from a guy like Puka versus how expensive what you just put up is, right? Obviously that's really hard to get to, and you need 9 pieces to be right.
Stafford, Gibbs, Puka, Devontae, John. Can we make it work with $3,600 remaining?
Oh, that's expensive. Possibly. I'll say I have a strong preference for Puka over Devontae Adams. That like Devontae Adams, now at his price tag, he needs a touchdown to pay off that price tag, and like you're preferably getting 2 touchdowns because he's not putting up like 8 or 9 receptions. I think it's his max this season I think is like 6 receptions. He has 100-yard game on the season, so he's getting these goal line touchdowns like a running back would. But if he doesn't get like multiple touchdowns, his chances of like paying off that price tag in a tournament winning way aren't that high. Whereas Puka can just get there on like catches, yardage. Like his yardage prop, I think, is 99.5. That puts him at like 50-50 to get the 100-yard bonus, basically. So he can like get there regardless.
What are his props right now for making an awkward catch and going to the blue trainer's tent? And you're like, oh no, Puka's out of the game, but then he'll just be back 2 plays later.
Probably 50-50.
It's like 2.5 times during the game it could happen. So Stafford, Gibbs, Puka, Parkinson. Let's start there. I threw in Chargers D. They were my favorite of the cheapest Ds that I could find. We can always take them out and go back to the Raiders. That leaves us $49.50 for the rest of the spots. 2 receivers, a running back, and a flex. What's the best way to figure this out? Marks?
Yeah, I'd put in a cheap running back.
Yeah, I was going to say we have to use Marks for right now. I would use Marks, yes.
So, yeah, just looking in the optimizer at the GPP values, Gibbs, McCaffrey, Barkley, Henry, Devin Neal at $5,300 again this week against the Panthers actually rates out a little bit better than Woody Marks, and he is $300 cheaper. I mean, we could use him as a flex if we wanted to. Do you guys like him? Because I do and I don't. I feel like 53 is like, what are you really getting out of Devin Neal?
Yeah, not super high up my list right now, but obviously possible. And we just saw what he could do last week, so it's possible. It's just like I said, there's the thing for me is like, and we haven't got there yet because we're focused on this game stack, and that's what makes this game stack interesting versus when we get to others. Is there is, like we said, we saw the CMC Gibbs lineups already. Saquon Barkley is 7,100 against the Raiders. ETN's had a touchdown like 6 of the last 5 weeks or something, and he's up there against the Jets. And then you've got other guys even behind that could come into play. So yeah, it's really tricky. And then we may get news in these other spots. So for now, I'm fine with like what you have there. It's just this lineup kind of has to be built out with something like Jameson Williams, probably, if you want to keep the game stack going, because once you put him on, it's going to get expensive quick.
We do have Gibbs. I mean, if we don't want to overstack it, John, we don't necessarily have to use another Lion, although that would be ideal if that's the way that we're going to play it. There are very few. Let's see here. Let's sort by GPP value. See who the cheapest guys are. McLaurin, Jennings are both right around that 5K range. Jacoby Myers is there as well. Jaden Reed. Why does Jaden Reed project out so well, John? You tell me.
I'm not sure. I don't know that he necessarily should be like in it's a staple of cash lineups or tournament lineups. I think there's like plenty of places to go, and obviously like injury news is going to shake this up as well. I just think he happens to be the guy at that like price tag that lets you put in these other guys.
Yeah,
Right?
it didn't get enough of a boost off last week on price when there was more worry last week. Like he was coming back at 4,200, but like how much will he actually get to play? And now Golden's active and now everything, but he was actually out there quite a bit. We saw Mike Evans come back last night. I mean, Tampa Bay seems to just put their guys right back into the fire and say, go for it with Bucky. And now last night with Mike Evans. So maybe they're assuming, I'm assuming based on workload of what they saw last week, just assuming regardless of who shows up and how many receivers they have on that roulette wheel in Green Bay, is he still a good play? But I would go with John. I think he's more of a tournament play still than trusting him for cash in that spot. Just the price is pretty decent.
Worth noting, too, that Woody Marks is dealing with an ankle injury. He returned to practice on Thursday, so maybe not the end of the world for him. And Nick Chubb may or may not play, so he could be like the full-time go in the backfield there for the Texans. Unfortunately, there's no one really to bring back. Obviously, it's a tough matchup, and Michael Wilson's now $6,600. Trey McBride is $7,400. There's not really any Cardinals you can play with him.
Yeah. One thing about these builds, and we were going to get to it earlier too, like if you had went the Puka and Adams and Stafford way, is like obviously there's something you can find to fit it, but they're just going to be so similar because everyone's going to jam in the same value plays. An example with this lineup, Pat, and whether you like it or don't, I'll give it to you just to, so you can see the example off what we've been using, is if you put in Tinsley with Jameson Williams, this projects actually much closer to the optimal. It's about 4 points off from what you originally gave. You put in Tinsley with Jameson Williams. You put in George Kittle as your San Francisco piece because you can't get to McCaffrey, and it does drop us back to Raiders, right? You got to put Kittle in. No, you left Parkinson. You're going to just have to drop your D back to what we originally had. So I'm just showing you what this looks like is if you go back to your 2K defense.
Or Jets D.
Yeah, whatever you like. I'm just what we had from the beginning when you're finagling the original lineup is 4 points off, and it keeps almost all the same spots covered. You don't have Jamar Chase. You only have Mitch Tinsley, but you don't have CMC. You have George Kittle, but you get a 5-man game stack of Stafford, Nakua, Parkinson, Williams, Gibbs. You get Marks in there who right now looks okay, and then it lands on your Raiders defense. But yeah, you could go Jets for the $100 as well. Just an example.
Yeah, and if you did want to make it a little bit different, John, you could take out Kittle and use Jennings instead.
Yeah, and I'll just note that I think there's a good chance some of these Woody Marks lineups become Emmanuel Wilson lineups, right? Like probably 50% chance. And there's other running back situations as well. So we'll see what opens up throughout the day. Like we don't know what's going on with Commanders running backs. I think like Chris Rodriguez, like they're playing the Giants. So that's a rushing defense we've wanted to attack. And we could have a cheap Chris Rodriguez, or we could have a cheap Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt with no Chris Rodriguez.
With it, I would feel good with Chris Rodriguez. I would feel less good with Ja'Cory Crosby Merritt in my lineup.
Yeah, he doesn't really catch passes, so
and he kind of sucks. So there's that too. Should we do Phillip Rivers stacks?
We didn't talk about the Seattle defense yet.
That's true. There's a lot of good defenses this week, though.
Yeah, there really is. It's just more of what else is he going to do? The thought, I guess, is if they are just going to hand it off to Jonathan Taylor a million times, and then where can he really go with it? Obviously, in Seattle, Rushdie has been pretty solid, so I'm not sure how that's going to look. If it's just going to be to sort of move in, kill the clock, and go from there. But why not let Phillip Rivers sort around a little bit?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how just looking at the lineup. Obviously, this is an overstack of that one game that we were targeting. But if you wanted to do a smaller shell here, could you drop Jameson Williams, turn him into Juwan Jennings, and then turn up Tinsley to I don't know 80 Mitchell or something like that at $4,400, John, and then figure it out so it's the same similar sort of build. You lose Jameson Williams as a part of your Lions bring back, but I feel like you're a little bit more different than you would be than all of if Higgins is out, Tinsley's gonna be in a ton of this type of lineups, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he is. I do think there's a concern about what happens with the Jets quarterback situation, though, before I go to a John Mechie or AD Mitchell.
Yeah, you're not big on Brady Cook?
We'll see. I actually might prefer him to Justin Fields, to be honest.
Maybe for the receivers, that could be a thing. I don't know for their state of mind if that's the way that you want to be.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. No. But that is receiver specific, right? For AD Mitchell and John Mechie, I'd prefer potentially Brady Cook.
All right. Well, you guys brainstorm some games that we can get to next and try to build out, and we'll load it up right after this. Look, I keep telling you about Omaha Steaks, and not every I can't hear. Guests coming over, and they like meat, whether it be steaks, burger, deli-style franks. All the heavy hitters are coming in that cooler, which is so glorious to crack open, easy to make, throw it on the grill out back, and you're going to be set up, no running to the grocery store, and you actually have food that people want to eat when they come over to your house. Shipped right to your front door. There's no off-season for flavor with these guys. Make game day delicious with the official sponsor of tailgating. Visit omahasteaks.com and get $35 off with promo code MAYO at checkout. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code MAYO at checkout. Terms apply. See site for details. Underdog's expanding the game. You already know their player picks. Pick higher or lower on player stats. Today, Underdog prediction markets are live in 25 states. Back your squad with spreads, handicap for closer game, or totals, higher or lower combined score, combined with player picks for bigger payouts. New customers play $5 on fantasy, get $75 in fantasy bonus entries. Code Mayo. Team picks, player picks, all on Underdog. Now that I'm old, I've had to come to the fact that I just don't bounce back the way that I used to. I don't wake up in the morning feeling normal. And now that football season has started, that is absolutely unacceptable. I got work to do in the morning, and I got kids that are waking up. It's no good. But that isn't a problem anymore because I found ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol. The ZBiotics Pre-Alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic, invented by PhD scientists to tackle the rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for the rough days after drinking. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol the first drink of your night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel the best tomorrow. Go to zbiotics.com/PatMayo to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use PatMayo at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/PatMayo and use the code PatMayo at checkout for 15% off. Available to you tonight, Tambo. zbiotic.com.
I'm interested. Yeah, we'll definitely check it out and see how it rolls. I love how it says drink responsibly though, because it's like it's an open bar, by the way, too. So I'm not sure if ZBiotics will help me, but it'll smooth the pain. That's hopeful. So we'll check it out and give you the review after.
Perfect. If it's not good, leave it off air for next week.
Will do.
So we talked about some of the high total games. There's also just huge spreads for some of these teams, like the Texans implied team total is very high, same as the Seahawks, same as the Niners, same as the Eagles. Tambo, do you have interest in, and the Jags being another one, do you have interest in those games over the overall high total games?
I'm not against them. I will say that we always talk about when these teams have high totals, you could still stack them up. But I think that's where a lot of the running back interest comes from, like the CMC, the ETN Jr., the even back to the well, which is painful, but Kenneth Walker, I feel like he's had opportunities, just hasn't got it done. So yeah, the price though, 5,600, just depends on how the rest of the slate shakes out.
What do you think? What do you make of it, John? Are there one of those teams that you would like to stack up as like an onslaught, or are you with Tambo that those are kind of pick and choose the pieces of those games?
That was almost word for word the answer I was gonna give. Then, like, yeah, I'm interested in the running backs, sure. And it seems like very simple and straightforward. And I should give some like incredibly contrarian take, but like, no, I if there's a 13-point spread, I'm maybe interested in the running back or nothing at all.
Any of the Bears running backs you guys would be interested in, even against the Cleveland defense?
Again, there's way too many guys to consider on this slate. Could they have a good day? Yes, very easily. They love to run the ball. It's possible, but at the end of the day, like I said, I got like 8 or 9 or more in front of them. So that's kind of how it shakes out as of now. And then it could get even better if, like we said, we get the Jacobs stuff.
All right. Well, Tambo, give us the game that you want to go to next.
That's how I'm looking at here now. Like, I guess one that we didn't talk about a ton, but obviously 2 of them fell into the optimal was going to that Cincinnati Baltimore game. These division battles typically can go one way or the other. And, this is a spot where, the Ravens have got to win. It's, it's the same for everybody this time of year, whatever. But my point being, you could definitely see some back and forth. And in that lineup, well, you had Tinsley and Chase in the optimal. We didn't have anything from the Baltimore side. There's no real stack to it, anything like that. Baltimore has almost, I think it's 27-point team total on the road. It's almost 25 at home for the Bengals. So I think stacking that game up could be a little bit interesting.
Yeah, John, what do you do with the Baltimore side, I guess, is the problem. Like, I don't feel confident in any of these guys.
I actually have been waiting for Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers to connect like all season since week 1. And they finally had another 100-yard game last week. So I think you can play Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers and run it back with Jamar Chase and then fill in, your choice of players. I think Derrick Henry is interesting as well, obviously against the Cincinnati rushing defense. I don't know that I'd combine like Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry, but I would combine Derrick Henry and Jamar Chase.
Well, let's try to take the best pieces of this game, Tambo, see if we can figure it out. Lamar, Chase, Flowers, throw them in. Like that. That's about as, I guess could you throw Tinsley in there right now because he is so cheap?
Definitely. But also you're forgetting the best spot in this entire game, which is that tight end going against Cincinnati. So, and I believe, isn't Mark Andrews questionable as well? I got to double check, but I think we could have a likely spot here.
Let's see. Andrews is, in terms of practice reports,
added to the Thursday injury report. So
limited.
Yeah, that same glute injury.
Limited at practice. I don't know. I doubt he's going to miss the game with the season on the line, but let's throw likely in just for fun. So Lamar likely.
Speaking of which, just to note, because my favorite team, but last week it was fine and still 6 for 25 and a touchdown for likely. So I'm not erasing this guy off the board anyway. And we just saw who you talked about earlier with you mentioned Dawson Knox. Kincaid still ended up getting there too. The winning lineup or the second place lineup in the Millie Maker had T. Higgins, Kincaid, and Allen. So it's like this is a spot that likely still fine either way, I think, at 3,400.
Someone in the chat did mention S. Guzzi. John, do you think that Joe Burrow is going to be too sad to generate fantasy points this week?
Too sad?
He's a real sad sack. He's a real sad sack these days. He's bummed about life, bummed about football. Maybe he'll throw 8 touchdowns and everything will be fine. The other way, instead of I prefer Gesicki to Tinsley anyway, Tambo. Could we do likely and Gesicki, or are we just losing too much with that flex spot? Because we only have $3,400 remaining here anyway. I would rather, if it became a 1v1, is a 2 tight end lineup too shitty allocating 2 of your spots to tight ends if those are the 2 tight ends you're using?
I didn't fill the rest of it out yet, but I gotta, I'll take 2 seconds. My thinking was if you left Tinsley and it was fine, again, that's much more likely to be a real thing this week on the Higgins side of injuries and whatnot. And so I just wondered if it ends up being like you'd have to go maybe Gibbs over McCaffrey and then make your second tight end or play the flex with Kittle or Jennings as a piece of that San Francisco game. Like San Francisco is going to put up points here. I know you're playing a little bit of roulette on who it might be, but man, they are going to put up, you'd expect 25 plus, if not more in this spot. So if you like the CMC version, you can run it, but I kind of prefer looking at a Gibbs version, get my piece of that game. This guy's just electric with the ball in hand. And then I think you can get, what is it? Kittle and it's Kittle and 2K. So it's back to our Raiders spot, right? Wasn't it? Yeah.
If you go, so the 2v2 ends up becoming Kittle and Tinsley, and I have Jennings and Gesicki in for, I believe, exactly the same amount of money or close to it.
Yeah, so that's actually perfect. Yeah, 2 versions of it. Love it.
Yeah, I like this version, John, because it has Gesicki over Tinsley, but that's me.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I do think Tinsley could see probably more ownership than he should if he's 3,100 and T. Higgins isn't in.
We also have to remember that Mitchell Tinsley can't catch. That's an issue.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I just like it because if you're using 2 tight ends and they're from the same game and it's a back and forth, it's a different way. And even if Gesicki or or likely end up picking up any type of steam whatsoever. You've got Jennings instead of Kittle, instead of CMC. You've still got Gibbs and ETN Jr., but then you're getting the 2 tight ends within a game stack. So it's a way to certainly get different off the board and still have a really high projected lineup that's got upside to it. So I like that quite a bit, actually, both versions.
I couldn't imagine playing a game stack here. And the one reason that I like Gesicki here is that I think that Tinsley will be more owned than Gesicki. But like you said, if you can break it up with the 2 tight ends, then you're not sharing the ownership anyway. But I can't imagine a lineup where you stack up this game that doesn't feature Jamar Chase on either side of the stack.
Right. Yeah. The other thing, too, I just saw that's pretty interesting is also, I think you have to flip it. But, Pat, you also come with it because that's the other thing. When you find game stacks like this, sometimes it's interesting how it shakes out. But this one can also be, if you did go to the Tinsley side, I think Tinsley would have a bigger game with the Burrow stack as well. So if you flip Lamar to Burrow for $200 more and move Jennings down to Kittle in the flex, you get to Tinsley again. So now you have the Burrow Tinsley Chase version. You have to move Gesicki out. Yeah, you had Burrow in. That's correct. It's just a 3v3 that's super close, but it also actually makes more sense in my eyes of like, then you put Tinsley in there, and then it forces then it forces Jennings into the flex. So you still get your Jennings play, but with Burrow. So See how you flip the build. Like you have almost the same thing. You just did another 3v3 or whatever, 2v2.
I mean, if we're playing it this side of the lineup, John, and you got Burrow, Tinsley, and Chase, and we do have Flowers and Likely from the other side, would you be willing to just say, screw it, we don't need Likely, we can turn Likely into Gesicki and just completely overstack this side?
Yeah, I think you could do that. You still have Zay Flowers from that side. I think we might be actually looking at 2 different, like we might want a Lamar lineup and a Joe Burrow lineup. Because now I'm looking at Gibbs and thinking, well, maybe that should be Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
let's switch this version right now. I like that call. Like let's take out Gibbs and put in Derrick Henry and then see where we land on the Burrow side of things. Wow. You can get there's a 1v1 actually right there. Crazy. This is why I said that this type of build is interesting, but you can put in Amon-Ra with Chase and Tinsley
instead of Flowers.
Yeah, because you don't have to overstack. If you got Derrick Henry, you don't have to overstack. And I'm just showing again, like same type of thing. To each their own. Do whatever you like to do. I'm just saying, like, I'm not trying to leave out Detroit guys with 30 points and San Francisco guys with 30 points. You can't play them all, but you can definitely mix the ones that you think are going to score the most. I'm just going off what I'm thinking. I want a piece of those games. If I'm not playing Gibbs, why not play Amon-Ra versus needing the? It was just like your point earlier, Pat, when you were like, do we need Jameson Williams in there, or can we just trust Gibbs instead of Jameson Williams? In this case, Zay Flowers. I'm saying, give me a piece of that Detroit game. And then I like your overstack of the Cincy side that you've got there. To be honest, I'm good with that.
How owned is the Raiders D going to be this week?
I was going to say we're playing a lot of the Raiders defense.
Yeah, that could turn out very poorly for us, I feel like.
Yeah. Do you think they'll actually, I don't know if they'll actually get popular overall versus just us talking about it and playing them right now. I don't think that's going to move it enough. So I would say any thoughts on the guys we haven't talked about yet are Saquon Barkley. And
no,
they got a 25 point team.
I am out on Saquon Barkley. I am just out on the Eagles offense. It looks terrible. They suck without Lane Johnson. And I got Barkley had a good week last week. It's fine. It's the second time he's cracked 100 yards this year. And the Raiders run D, not bad. It's the one thing they actually kind of do well.
What about the Hurts, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith stacks?
Yeah, I think just on a 13-game slate, I think I just, like if I'm only playing 10 lineups, which I am, I think I'd just rather allocate my money elsewhere. I'd rather gamble on some of these other games. Like I'd rather play like the Brissett stack, and hopefully that works out than play them.
All right. You want to try that one?
Well, we can. I do want to go back to the Lamar lineup for a second because I do want to play one of these Lamar lineups. I didn't save it, so.
Oh, yeah. Just put what we had in was good, I think. I can read the example, and you can do what you want with it, but it was. The one you liked was that I liked too was Lamar with Zay Flowers, and then it had Likely and Gesicki, and then you ended up getting Jennings with Gibbs, ETN Jr., and Chase. Yeah, that was nice. I actually do like that.
Yeah, it was Gibbs, and in the
Tinsley goes up
slot,
to
it was Jennings.
Your boy Jennings.
Yeah,
which I like as well.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I'll enter that one. So yeah, John, before we go to like one of my stupid ideas, do you want to do New England and Buffalo?
Sure. Do you want to take it from the Drake May side?
I don't know. Which side would you rather go from?
Let's see. I think, you know what? There's only an $800 difference between May and Josh Allen.
But I guess my thinking on this would be that the more popular way to stack this game up is going to be the May side with James Cook.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if I like or not, because the Patriots' run D is still excellent.
I just think Josh Allen can break slates. Like there's actually not that many guys who without a stack are breaking a slate from the quarterback position at an expensive price tag. But Josh Allen is that guy. like he'll put up like a 47 or 37 point DraftKings score.
So I think it's foolish, Tambo, to overstack Allen. Like we can put one guy with him. I don't know if I'd want to put two Bills with Allen, because if he is going to break the slate, he's going to run in 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, so this game is really interesting to me because I really think there is going to be points, but it's so hard to get it right on both sides. I've made fun of Mahomes for years, and then I started calling Drake Mahomes because he's just as hard to stack up. Like, which guy is it going to be? And then to your point, Pat, the Bills are the new Chiefs when it comes to spreading the ball around, and they have 5-6 guys we could put in there. So I really don't know what I feel great about here. Maybe John has a better feel for it, but sometimes you just got to plug your nose and roll with it. I really don't know, but I like the call on Josh Allen. It's just who knows who shows up with him, if anyone is even needed.
I don't mind this core, John. Allen, Trevian Henderson, and Diggs.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. You're saying like Drake May is not getting a rushing touchdown like that. Hopefully the touchdowns go to Trevion Henderson, which is possible, and Stephon Diggs. So yeah, I like that. And then we're maybe just saying Josh Allen is either running it in or it's going to like some receiver we haven't even Brandon Cooks we haven't even like conceived of yet.
Yeah, or who's the third tight end? The Laugh Factory, Haas. You can put that guy in. Like, dude, would you throw a Dawson Knox in here, Tambo, with Kincaid, just to say, hey, maybe this big dude can catch a touchdown?
I would, if it was me, I would just plug in Kincaid if I was gonna go to anybody. But I also don't hate what you have right there. Like, you could just play it that way. It's a ton of times people have done this, like even speaking to the previous game that we were just on. Again, Lamar hasn't been running this year, but I saw a lot of seasons the past few years where you'd have someone play Lamar with like Higgins and Chase when Higgins was a bit cheaper. And it's like they'll just play that instead of the other side and hope that he beats the opposite quarterback in Joe Burrow. In this case, you're saying Henderson on the ground, who makes a ton of sense if you're playing this game. You're hoping Diggs catches some balls, but it's not enough that really boosts up May. And to John's point, Allen can just break slates. But it's with who you don't know. So I'd be fine with what you have here and just start to fill it out from there.
Yeah, and even like there is a distinct possibility as well that May is the one who spreads it around so much that you end up with a Austin Hooper touchdown, or you get a Kayshon Boutte touchdown, or a Hamilton touchdown, whatever it might be, that even if you have May, you have not stacked him with the right guys.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, you could just turn this into a Drake May solo edition as well if you wanted to flip it and save some of the money. So if we start it this way with this game, we now need to get some Rams and or Lions in and probably some Niners in to this, or Baltimore players or Bengals players. Like, what do you think the priority list, John, is to jam these guys in?
I might actually, just looking at our portfolio, I might put it like in a Jameson Williams. I don't think he's a guy we've gone to. So we're looking for like something from the Lions and Rams. 6,100. It's not a bad price tag. Like, this looks like a lineup where we might be sticking in the mid-range a little bit.
Tambo, where would you go after that? Like, if we had to fill out the other running back, is it CMC or is it Gibbs?
Well, maybe it's more like a Jennings Gesicki, and then see what we can fit for running backs. Because we do have some of those 5K running backs, like in that range. Like John said, it's going to be probably more of a balanced build. So I was just trying to, feel around for some different spots. If we're not on Tinsley or Jamar Chase in this one, maybe we get to Gesicki, and that makes sense. If you like that spot. Jennings, you've mentioned, and I don't hate either. I tend to think people land on CMC, and if they don't land on CMC, I think their first thought is probably George Kittle at a much more affordable price tag at a onesie position. So Jennings could help separate that, kind of the same way Christian Watson took out Josh Jacobs last week. That was a running back versus a wide receiver, but less people played Christian Watson than people played Josh Jacobs in that spot. So this would be a way you could flip it a little bit.
So where do
now
we go?
You've got money.
Yeah. So where do we go from here? Is this the spot to not use the Raiders D and like put in one of the actively go after like the Seahawks defense?
Yeah, I think so.
Like if we're going to be right around this range anyway, who of these like mid-tier, like is this an ETN lineup then? Henderson and ETN, then you have 5,600 for a flex, which is...
For Marks. Yeah, you got it. It's ETN, Marks, Seahawks. Just an example. But yes, that's the example there.
If we're using Seahawks, maybe we want Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, I like that too. And I don't think Mayo does, but I definitely am interested again.
I don't. I mean, it kind of goes back to the point that I brought up about Chuba Hubbard earlier. And I guess because they're the big favorites in this game, obviously it makes a little bit more sense. But you pointed out, like, why would you want to use a split back on a slate that's so big and does have value? Why would I want to use Kenneth Walker when I can get two guys at the same price or cheaper that are getting like 90% of the workload in the backfield? And one of them is Woody Marks, who is like a 10-point favorite.
Yeah, don't hate it. I was going to say, it was more to John's point of the correlation factor in this case. Like, I'm not playing Carolina D. If I did, I'd be fine. If you want to throw Hubbard in with them, I'm just saying I like the idea of Walker with the Seahawks D here, just as a way to get different and double down on the possibility. But obviously, Charbonnet can be mixed in plenty and score touchdowns, et cetera, et cetera. So it's more. I don't know. My guy Hoop always talks about it, and Mayo, I don't know how you sometimes do this stuff, but like if you've been playing a guy, sometimes like I've been playing Kenneth Walker, and I'm gonna probably keep playing him. Like I just don't want to move off too soon, and we got that problem now with golf when we get there. I know it's a football show, but with Siwoo not moving anymore, and with Sung Jae not being part of that, that's our two favorite guys right there that are going to be back on the PGA Tour. So. Can't wait to lose more money with both of those guys this season.
Oh yeah, the biggest losers coming back to my lineups. It's going to be absolutely perfect. In fairness, I just, for people who want to know, I just recorded a preview show for the PGA Scramble Best Ball contest on Underdog. I think it's one of the most exploitable contests in the entire DFS ecosystem. Code Mayo at Underdog to go check that out. I'm sure most of you are on it right now. And if you do care about golf, that episode will drop on Monday to give you a great primer for the year. But Tambo, I have been encouraging people, and John, I'll encourage you as well. Join the big one and done contest. Whether you like golf or not, it's a great contest. It's so low effort, John, with a huge payout at the end and flat payouts that it will make you like golf, if nothing else. Like, how many dollars worth of entries do you play a week? Could you afford the $250 for a year of golf sweats?
John, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, of course.
FantasyGolfChampionships.com. The link is in the description. 1.2 million in guaranteed money. Tell your friends, as Tambo and I always say. I mean, I get my dad an entry, he gets his dad an entry, and just a great talking point. It's a great gift, too, if you don't know what to get people and they kind of like golf. They will get into golf after this. Like, how big of a golf guy was your dad before this, Tambo?
Not as much at all. Like he followed heavy during the Tiger years and stuff, but then sort of slipped away. He's one of those guys that I always bitch about. Like he counts as a view for the ratings, but it's not always fully into it. Now these last few years since getting into the one and done, heavily into it. He's got the app loaded up on the phone. He's running through everything. And this year, because he won $800 last year, which he's still pissed off about, even though it was huge enough of a free entry, he wish he had more. He might be buying another one. He might go double down this year because I'm getting him one, and then he might buy one of his own.
I like it. You can catch me. We also have the $1,000 high roller contest as well, where it's $1,000 an entry, and I'll be in that one. Maybe he throws in 200 more bucks and upgrades to that.
I mean, maybe we get on Mr. and Mr. Tambo, the double combo, dad son combo. Get into the high roller and see what happens.
Someone in the chat just pointed this out. I actually think it's a good idea. That what if I want to actively play the Seahawks D. I think it's a great spot. But if we don't use the Seahawks D, if we can find ourselves $200, it probably means taking Woody Marks and turning him into Devin Neal or someone else in that range as a flex. But then you get ETN with the Jags D against the Jets. And that's the correlation that I feel better about, just because I like ETN so much more than I like Walker, John.
You're speaking like two Kenneth Walker touchdowns into existence. But
that's fine. You go bet the Kenneth Walker 2 touchdowns then.
Right. No, but I do. I like the ETN. It's the same thought process, right? Like go with the Jacksonville running back and defense. So I do like that.
The other thing that you could do here, which is just absolutely terrifying, Tambo, because it worked last week. The guy who I believe won the Dog Bowl when we were there was the only guy in any of the drafts who drafted Tony Pollard. Is $5,200. We could slot him in here to go opposite Jennings.
Man, I feel like John would have been on Tony Pollard somehow in his portfolio last week. It's a classic John play, and I'm sure on FanDuel he was super cheap. But I wish we had the show last week because that's one piece that I certainly missed, even being a little bit on like Shedeur stuff because of how cheap that stack was. I still didn't get to the Tony Pollard stuff. John, did you roll him out, or what was your thoughts there last week?
I was 10 times the field on Tony Pollard, but he was, I mean, he was 2% owned even on FanDuel. So at least like the one contest I remember looking at, but I had about 20% Tony.
And what was the love, or what was the sort of thought process behind the Tony Pollard play in your mind?
Just the price tag, and that he's touchdown dependent on FanDuel, which is not that bad of a thing. That like he's gonna, if he gets in the end zone, I forget what his price was, maybe something 4,000, like 4,900 or 5,000 or something like that, which is a very cheap FanDuel price tag for a guy that can score touchdowns.
Did he have better props too? Like I didn't look at his props last week, but I was just curious if you saw that.
I bet his under.
There you go. What was his under?
45.5.
Yeah, I don't know. I like that call. Good, nice work to you, John, and those that got to him last week. I thought it was a really sharp play, just based on not the result, but the way it's set up. And there was a lot of people talking in and around it, but nobody landing on it fully. So to get 10x the field and just to have that in your portfolio, I think was really sharp.
Is this a spot, John, where you would go back to him, especially in this lineup where we have a Niner in it already?
I wouldn't necessarily go on DraftKings. I haven't even checked his DraftKings price, just because he's
52.
Like, he's not a guy that puts up a lot of receptions. So 5,200. I just think there's other guys I'd rather get, in that price range or below. I'd probably want to find the $100 to get to Devin Neal, who's generally gonna put up some receptions.
I mean, what would you want to do in the flex here? Like, we can use Devin Neal, but we also have the option of someone like Terry McLaurin, who I do like this week.
Yeah. I think that, that's true. If we're talking about a flex spot, then we can go to like Tim McLaurin. A receiver always has, maybe the better chance of piling in some receptions and a long touchdown. The Giants aren't a defense we need to avoid.
I'm a little higher on like moving off Diggs and just saying it's Allen and Henderson back and forth. And like, what can you do with that 2v2? I like the Jags call. I think that's great. I love the rest of the lineup. It kind of fits well, Pat. We're playing Gesicki instead of a Tinsley, who could be popular if we get the Higgins news. I really like everywhere we're at. I just think you could also go back to it and say, you know what? It's Henderson on the ground. It's Allen doing whatever he does. Let's not try and figure out the rest of that game. Let's just hope it's the spot that's needed. And we saw it. Wasn't it the Josh Allen, Sean Tucker week? That was like, isn't that the exact set? I mean, not many got to just those two, but I think it happened, right? When Josh Allen had 47 and Tucker had 30 plus on the ground. And that was the two that you needed from that game. So maybe this could be a similar setup.
You could do, instead of doing that, you could take out Diggs. You can do Wan'Dale Robinson and McLaurin going back and forth with each other if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Or you could go high-low as well. But I just don't like a lot of these lower-end wide receiver options.
I think going with McLaurin and Wan'Dale Robinson might give us an indication of like the next quarterback I'd want to go to.
Yeah, well, we'll talk through the dart team here in a second. But is there instead of going like just taking our money, we have $100 left over. If we go Wan'Dale and McLaurin, would you guys want to get to another stud receiver and then pay down, or would you rather continue with the balance of this lineup and do it that way? Like, would you want to try to go like Devontae Adams, someone, Puka, someone? We would probably don't even have money for Puka.
Yeah, I think this looks good.
I think this is fine. I think you're more, again, not that I like this, I'm just saying, I think you are more forced into something else here. Like, you're forced into like, okay, pick a guy if you wanted to, like Shakir, and say it's him, and then see what that gets you. I think then you get over $6,000 remaining, and you could still move pieces around. But again, that's the hard part, is getting that stuff right. I'm just saying, if I was doing that, I might be inclined to do something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, it basically just puts Diggs back in, Shakir and Diggs.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, so I mean, something like that could work.
Yeah, screw it. Let's try it. I want to build these Jackson Dart lineups.
Yeah, there you go.
That's going to be fun. So we got Dart. Do you worry that Dart is still running, John, but they're not designing runs for him? At least they didn't in his first game back. Do you think that'll change this week?
Potentially. I mean, I think I'm okay just looking at that game as a one-off. He had an excellent string of rushing touchdowns in these games. I think that they want to develop him. There's not much else going on for the Giants right now at this point in the season. So I think there's, to some extent, you want to let your rookie quarterback go out there and do what he does.
Bryant in the chat says, if you're looking to save money, John Bates looks like a 70s porn star in his DK profile. So I'm very excited to see what this looks like. Oh yeah, look at this guy. I think it's cut off. You can still see the stash at the top of the screen.
Oh, mustache season. I'm in.
We're in. We'll throw in John Bates replacing Zach Ertz, throwing some McLaurin into the mix, and now we got a stew going. Look at this. We got 6,400 per player left.
Oh, we got all the money. What happens when we put in McCaffrey and Gibbs?
Gibbs, McCaffrey, we got 4,000 left. We use Chargers D. We have $5,500 left. That's almost enough for it. Is that enough for Woody Marks? No, it's not. We're $100 short. We don't have to use Chargers D. You can put Woody Marks in there. I guess we already used McCaffrey, so we don't need Juwan Jennings. We could throw there's a lot of different options here.
Trying to see it.
And we don't need to use McLaurin. We could just use Bates.
Have we used the Seattle defense yet?
We have not.
I mean, it's pricey, but
Seattle D.
It's Seattle D with ETN and Tinsley, and you can close it out.
ETN.
It actually projects okay, even with Bates. That's surprising, but it does work.
Oh, Tinsley instead of McLaurin?
Yeah, I went with Tinsley, yeah, and then I put, like you said, if you just left John Bates, but again, we're using him, I think, more for the bit, but maybe he's good. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if he catches a touchdown, he's going to pay off 2,900 pretty well, and the really high-end tight ends are just in shit spots this week.
I'm trying to see.
Kittle is in easily the best spot here. McBride is playing Houston, and now he's $7,400. Bowers is playing Philly with Kenny Pickett playing quarterback, and Tyler Warren has Phillip Rivers throwing the ball. Maybe that's a good thing for Warren. Who knows?
What else can we do? I don't know if you like Tinsley as much, so that's what I was trying to see if we moved off him. But
I don't mind Tinsley, but he's whatever to me.
Yeah, I don't have much else to add to that one. I think it's kind of you kind of get put into a spot there because it depends on what. Again, we're using McCaffrey and Gibbs just because they feel like the most obvious, and once you're already overstacking the Giants, you can kind of do whatever you want. But yeah.
I'm going to submit that one, but I'm going to throw this to you, John. I'm going to put in that same lineup. I'm going to take out McCaffrey and Gibbs. We'll just go back to the shell that we had in the first place, and maybe we can add. We'll throw McLaurin here just for fun instead of Bates and see what we're going to do.
If it's not McLaurin, who else would it be?
Chris Rodriguez, I suppose, if he plays.
Yeah.
I was thinking, with the way that we've been building out these games, is anyone going to play JSN this week?
I was actually thinking that. I was actually thinking it was going to suggest a Sam Darnold lineup that just had Sam Darnold and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Because I agree. What if Jackson Smith and Jigba puts up 40 points and he's just going to be completely lost amongst Puka, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Yeah, I mean, do you do the overstack of the lineup that we just had, but it's JSN and Jonathan Taylor? I mean, I'm not in on Jonathan Taylor. If Rivers plays, Jonathan Taylor is going to have 9 catches because all Rivers does is dump it off to running backs.
Yeah,
man. I don't know about that.
What if we just throw JSN on? Could you play JSN as a one-off?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that might be the way to play him, honestly.
Or you could just play him with Darnold and then just fill it out from there. Darnold's only 5,800. So it's just if you want to combo it up and hope that he actually has a 35, 40-point game and it matters, then Darnold's obviously going to have a pretty big day at 5,800. The other thing about Darnold at 5,800 is it's again, I think by the end of the week, we'll see how it goes. But Dart and Lawrence are right below him. Brissett just below that. Above is Goff and Purdy. So Sam Darnold's kind of squeezed in between and with a guy that not many are probably playing just because the price tag is 8,600. But I don't know, it's some of these prices went down, right? On guys like him, 9K and 95, whatever they were. So you can get to whatever here. But I think JSN with Darnold is just leave it at that. I don't know if you even have to run it back. Just hope that they roll.
Let's see here. I'm going to go down to the Cardinals might be a sneaky D just because I have zero faith in the Texans offense or offensive line, John.
Sorry, the Cardinals D?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. I think that's reasonable. I don't think they'll see a ton of ownership being massive underdogs, but the offensive problems in Houston, make it a plausible defense.
Cardinals 5-1 against the spread on the road as well. Just as a heads up, if people want to know. You can throw in Parkinson as your tight end to go opposite Gibbs. You have ETN in here at 6,500 as your other running back. The problem is now with JSN in here with Darnold and Wandale and Terry McLaurin going against each other still, because I have them in his holdovers, gives you $3,400 for a flex. Like, is there anyone down? Is this yeah, it would be Gesicki. What would you do, John?
AJ Barner. Do the Sam Darnold double stack.
Yeah, how much is he?
He's 32. He fits.
Oh yeah, I like that.
And then you don't necessarily have to use the Cardinals. You could go up to the Saints or Chargers or Bengals or Commanders or Lions. I actually like the Chargers the best of that front, with Mr. Picks on the other side, Patrick Mahomes.
I'd maybe go Commanders going up against Jackson Dart, but like we're just from a thought process of trying to get fantasy points, not trying to get a great defense.
We do have Wandale in this lineup too, though,
yeah,
and McLaurin.
Yeah,
I'll go up to Chargers. I mean, Chargers Chiefs, like there is projected points in that game. We really haven't touched on it at all.
So
41.5 point total. But okay.
But it feels like the pieces in there, like almost like JSN, like Rashee Rice has to be someone we consider. Like, just because he dropped like 8 passes in the last game that we saw him play, this is an easier defense he's going against this time. But it's not like he's a pretty reasonable price, and he's going to have 13 targets.
Yeah, I'd be fine as a one-off. But the problem is too, it's like the reasonable price gets really close to the still good prices on guys that just project way better and are in really good spots too. So that's what makes it tricky. But yeah, definitely fine with them as a one-off. Don't think you need to stack them. That's for sure.
Let's just see if
we know for a fact actually that we don't need to stack him because Mahomes literally never ends up needed. But we'll see.
So we have one more lineup to build here, John. Which game would you like to go to?
Let's see. One more game. I might do like a San Francisco, like do a Brock Purdy.
Yeah. I like that quite a bit. Jennings, Kittle, maybe?
Yeah.
Would you go Jennings, Kittle, or would you try to squeeze McCaffrey in here somehow? Like Purdy, McCaffrey, Kittle.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, they're massive favorites in a game that doesn't necessarily have a low total. I think you could do, Purdy, McCaffrey, Kittle.
Is there any Titans bring back that you would consider?
We're just talking about Tony Pollard.
Would you use Tony Pollard in a lineup like this as the non-pass catching running back as 12.5 point underdogs?
I probably would not.
Damn, would you use DK? Would you use AO Minor? Like, is there anyone?
Oh, man.
I don't like any of these guys.
Tricky.
You probably don't have to.
No, I'd probably do something stupid, but I'd probably still do it. Would be like I would use Pollard instead of CMC and then use Jennings and Kittle and hope that it's, Pollard has another good game. Again, it's the lineup does or it doesn't. So that's what I don't mind about it. But it's like, then I want to like double leverage the spot. Like I want to flip CMC over to Pollard, fill that spot that most people would have CMC in. And then I'd want to use the pass catchers that go with Purdy that leverage CMC at the goal line or beforehand or whatever it might be. So I would probably try something aggressive like that, because then it leaves you all the money in the world to sort of fit the Gibbs, ETN type stuff or whatever else you want to add.
The problem is the guys in the passing game that take away from McCaffrey at the goal line is actually just Christian McCaffrey.
Possibly, but again, that's in this story, not necessarily. I get it. I'm just saying, like I would tell the story differently just because.
All right, let's try that. Let's give that a go. Let's say Tennessee keeps it competitive early, like last week on the ground. Pollard breaks off a big one, puts San Francisco a little bit into catch-up mode, and they have to throw. CMC doesn't get it done. Let's build that lineup. Purdy, Jennings, Kittle with Pollard. 5,600 left. So you said Gibbs and ETN probably. I was
testing the waters. Yeah, like Gibbs, ETN. What does that give you now? You still have 4,200 left with 3 spots to fill.
Well, throw in that Chargers D at 25, see what happens, and you get 51 per receiver.
Pearsall?
Ricky Bullets? Get him in? But then we have to find another $5,100 guy to play at receiver too, and there's not much really around there. This probably is like a high-low situation, I would guess.
Yeah. What was the price we had on... What was the price on Robinson? Oh, he was 5,900.
It was 59. If that's the case, you get like Diggs and someone potentially too.
You can't even get him with McLaurin, yeah.
You could do like Yoshivas who I like better than Tinsley, whose name hasn't even really come up in this context at all. You can go like Diggs, McMillan, or Robinson. I think I like Robinson the best of those guys. Who do you guys like between Diggs, Tet McMillan, and Robinson?
Probably Robinson.
Yeah, I think Robinson too. That's why I was asking about him earlier, but it's just like where I don't know if we can afford it all at that point, but it would be maybe Woody Marks instead of ETN as of now. I guess, yeah. What does that get us?
If you go Woody
Marks,
Ricky
Bullets, it gets us. Yeah, you can do that and keep your Chargers D.
I don't want to use Ricky Purcell at all.
I don't really either. I'm just like in that lineup, like that would, it's not really the best because of that. I think what's going to change a lot is if we get that Jacobs news. Again, don't know if we will, but obviously that would be all the spots that we keep landing. We're like, man, it's a significant number. It's like $1,000. We're like, if we just had $1,000, we'd be in really good shape and have a ton of options. And it's like the difference of Woody Marks down to Wilson in that example. So I think just everyone can note that if that does become sort of the play of the slate or the thought process that people are having going into the slate, that you will have to consider that, even though it's in the afternoon. So
I actually threw in Woody Marks and the Texans D. That is the 2v2 off Chargers and whoever else we had in there.
And what does it leave? What's the rest here? So you get Texans, Woody Marks. Oh, with Yoshi Boss. Yeah, I kind of like that too.
Yeah, if Yoshi Boss does seem to be the piece of that Bengals lineup that no one will end up on because it's so much cheaper to go to Tinsley or Gesicki. Like you save $1,000 by going to those guys, but in this lineup, we theoretically don't need the $1,000.
Yeah. Yep. Ugly price tag at 4,100. People won't like to pay it. They'll be looking for somebody in the 3Ks before they go there.
Oh, 100%. So last thing before we get out of here that I do want to deal with is going to be that Emmanuel Wilson situation. John, I want to go to you first. Because that's a late game, how do you even like try to start planning out going into the day that we might not get that? Hopefully you get the news about Jacobs with like Schefter overnight. Like, we're here. He's not going to play. And then he doesn't play. That would be great. Let's say we don't hear that. We hear he's a game time decision. Then we get to 3:45 Eastern and he's out. What do you do?
I think I haven't I'll be honest, I haven't really thought through. I'm just hoping we get news today on Jacob's practice status, but it's true. It could come down to like after lock. What I would say is you want to be playing Emmanuel Wilson with somebody else make sure you're playing him with other pieces of the 4 p.m. window, which I don't think will necessarily be that difficult with like the Detroit and Rams game in that window. But like if we don't know and it's looking shaky, I probably assume Emmanuel Wilson is in, Josh Jacobs is out. And have maybe set some kind of rule, or just like if you're making 1 or 2 lineups, like have a mental thought process. I want to make sure I've got like some San Francisco pieces in there, some Detroit or Rams pieces in there every time I use Emmanuel Wilson, so that I can like swap multiple things around. So maybe I end up with a lot less Christian McCaffrey or a lot less Jahmyr Gibbs or Puka because I've got to like drop down in salary from there, and then to boost up Emmanuel Wilson to a running back that I like.
Well, put it this way, Tambo. Let's say we get to this spot and we have this lineup that I just built. That's that Purdy, Pollard, Kittle, Jennings lineup. If we get the circumstance where Wilson is in, Jacobs is out, I know that Pollard fits our stack, but would you just drop from Pollard to Wilson?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's what people don't do, and that's definitely huge. I mean, on paper, it would be a massive difference between those two. And again, that's how I'm doing things. Everybody else wants to do things is up to them, but forget the game stack at that point. So I would for sure in this lineup make a swap like that. Even Pat, if it just left the money at that point, it's like it is what it is and just leaves the money. I'm still playing that. And then another point would be like from a look ahead perspective. John said, I mean, you're already going to be likely to have some of these other guys, but if you only had one spot, Vele is or Vele, I think is how you pronounce it actually for the Saints. It's a couple $100 less. Vele.
He's like Pele.
Can sometimes lead to a big payday if you get it right. So I think you could go to him against that Panthers pass defense. I also think if you could leave yourself $100, if it's a solo lineup, you can get to Jaden Reed at 4,500, who's $100 more. And then also, if you've got multiple pieces, then you can just move them around. But that's going to be lineups with like the 49ers stacks, lineups with the Rams Lions game. So there is a ton of different ways you can go if we don't get the news beforehand. Just got to keep those things in mind.
The other one that we're looking at for Pollard would fit this bill, and you would have to leave money on the table or finagle it, John. Or Devin Neal is the other one. He's also a part of the late set of games. Or my main man, Chuba Hubbard, who I started off with.
Yeah, I think we'll have some options. I think even if we don't get news before lock, like because I think that Emmanuel Wilson being in and Josh Jacobs being out would be the biggest way that the slate could get impacted. So that's what I would assume. And then if that's not what happens, I think there's multiple pieces. I mean, it's good thing we've got like a no bye week slate and 13 games because we've got like a pretty big 4 p.m. window with 5 games.
All right. That will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Don't be afraid to smash the like, sub to the channel, and turn those notifications on. I will have my Saturday update tomorrow with hopefully news on most of these injuries. Plus, I'll be live on Sunday night with Cust and a special guest for Sunday Night Live. We're back. Tambo, I tried to do it live from the Dog Bowl last week in KC. Not a success. Bad internet.
Yeah, it happens, but hopefully the trip was good. It looked like a fun time overall. So, love to see that. And as Underdog continues to grow, just all those big events, like people love the live events, the best thing.
Yeah, it was a ton of fun, and it was fun to see. It's always fun to see like someone just like win 200K too. They're so pumped. Like the guy's wife was super fired up. John, you know all about this, going to live finals and winning money.
It's a good feeling. Yeah, won my first one that I ever went to. Unbelievable feeling walking around with a giant check.
So, John, you are live later on Friday at the 4for4 YouTube channel.
Yep, we'll be on the 4for4 YouTube channel, the DFS MVP podcast, and then I'll be getting my position list and main slate article today. And then got the solo ship show coming out that it's recorded, probably usually around 4:30 or so on Eastern time on Fridays.
Excellent news. 4for4.com/Mayo. Get yourself a discount over at 4for4. ShipItNation.com is where you can find everything Tambo is doing. And Tambo, you are live with Blickle tomorrow morning, right?
Yeah, live with Blickle tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern, live with Hoop and Title on Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern for the main slate on the Ship It Nation YouTube station. And then we've got the 12 Days of Shipmas, Pat, launching today. If you want to see some fun social content, follow us on X at Ship It Nation. You can follow us everywhere, but it'll start there. Having some fun, giving away over $10,000 in cash and prizes over the next 12 days. Today will be the launch video with the details with myself included in the video, so you can watch and make fun of me. And then you can go follow the contest starting tomorrow for the next 12 days leading up to Christmas.
All right. My newsletter will come out with a recap of all those injuries that I talked about in the show on Saturday, but it'll be coming out later in the day, and it'll just have more information, more up-to-date information, because I can't change these videos after they're posted. Can't do that. Wish I could, can't. So if you think that I can, I can't. People can't do that. So if you comment on something that's out of date, like a day later, like I can't change it. That is what the newsletter is for, and it is completely free to join. It is down in the description. Plus, it'll be free on 4for4.com as well. All right. Thank you all for watching. Good luck in week number 15. I'll see you next time.